Hello and welcome to today's webcast, Streamline Your Path to an IT as a Service Model by Leveraging Converged Infrastructure, brought to you by Datalink. I'm Chandani McDermott. I'm part of the marketing team here at Datalink, and will be your moderator today. Before we begin, I do want to cover a few housekeeping items. This webcast is designed to be interactive between you and the presenters. The webcast console you are looking at can be completely customized. You can resize and move any of the windows that you have open. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets you can use. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can click on the Q&A widget at the bottom and submit your questions. All questions from this webcast will be captured. If you are experiencing any difficulties, please visit the webcast help guide by clicking on the question mark icon below the presentation window. The help guide covers common technical issues. Our presenters today include Datalink Practice Director Kent Christensen, Pure Storage Senior Product Manager Mayor DeWaker, and VMware Senior Product Marketing Manager Sachin Shamar. I would now like to turn this presentation over to our first presenter, Kent Christensen.
Thank you, Chandani, and welcome everybody to our overview of FlashStack within the virtualized environment, et cetera. We'd like to start by kind of giving Datalink's perspective of where we see the kind of market drivers here. So not just convergence and driving toward more service-oriented IT delivery, but we have a great opportunity to look at a unique solution where the high-velocity virtualization meets converged infrastructure and all-flash storage. Then we'll follow up with VMware, talking about end-user compute and the market opportunity and some of the solution, and then we'll follow that up with Mayor talking about the all-flash FlashStack solution. So where do we see ourselves from an industry? We've seen this for some time. Those of us who have worked in IT have seen the increasingly divergent lines between what we're given to work with, budgets, people, et cetera, and what we're asked to do. The economics of being in IT have been difficult since the recession, but they continue to be difficult as we move forward. A lot of that is due to the fact that the budgets are under pressure, but the expectations are changing. The organizations within the business are looking to get their jobs done more quickly. They have more choices, whether that be SaaS solutions or cloud solutions, et cetera. And some of the components of IT, especially within the realm of cloud, are starting to become commoditized. And people start to feel like these are services I can get at extremely low cost or even free. So that leads us kind of to this broad category of cloud, which, of course, the C-levels are told, this should be a utility and organizational changes are required to get that business impact. On the other side, what have we been doing to close those gaps? Because we haven't been sitting idle. And we're going to touch base on some of these. Abstraction or virtualization. We've seen wide adoption of VMware across most organizations, up to the 70, 75%, 80% of virtualization. And how do we take that beyond and start adding more management, even driving toward the concept of software-defined data centers? We've seen Flash in the recent years start to, really explode onto the scene and start to solve some very difficult challenges we've had for a long time within the virtualized environment and high-performance application environment. We've seen a lot of growth in converged infrastructure, and we're going to talk about that today. And then, how do we evolve all those concepts into a cloud delivery model? So I'm going to try to, in a brief introduction, just touch base on some of those and then turn it over to VMware and Pure to kind of follow up on some of the specifics of the solution. So, we've been going through this journey, we call it, through data center evolution. So we, in the past, we had to build silos specific for a specific application. In the beginning, there were architectural limitations. There may be performance limitations or application limitations that have a dedicated infrastructure to support, a mission-critical application. But we've certainly seen, again, through the adoption of virtualization and VMware and the server and dominating the automation and the consolidation and the management in that environment, we've seen, improvements in the past, and we're going to see more in the future in the networking related to that. And then, of course, in how we've adopted storage to adapt to those changes across the other environments. And then, we've moved toward this concept of don't treat these as silos, but let's start to consolidate, the way we think about this and the way we deliver applications and build in pools of resources that can deliver applications. And we're doing a lot of work currently with a lot of customers in that area. We've been calling that the virtual data center as a general coin of how we're adopting architectures to fit that. And that forms a basis for going out and saying, well, if we can then federate that, then we can take into the cloud delivery models. So that's, from a high level, a large area where we've been focused. A big driver of that, as we talked about, is virtualization, and specifically things, like VMware. Is that the operating system of the data center moving forward, the software-defined data center? It's been great. I don't think anybody denies the benefits we've received from the adoption of virtualization across more and more mission-critical applications and even different use cases, and then expanding that. It's been great, but it hasn't been without its challenges. Specifically, and we'll talk about this today, when we look at adopting the data center to take advantage of the advances in virtualization, we saw some things change. We might not have considered shared storage in the past, but this became a requirement moving forward. We looked at the extremely high I/O that this is generating by mixing all the workloads on single chassis. The I/O patterns and the amount of I/O was no longer predictable, especially as we expand this into end-user computing, where we can have 50 to 75 to 100 or more desktops represented in a single server. So from a storage point of view, the mixture of I/O and things like that becomes very random and very much a high-performance requirement. And then we look at, the requirements of, again, how do I take care of backing up and doing replication and efficiently copying and efficiently using so that I don't lose the benefits of virtualization in one area by having waste in another. And this, of course, we've solved a lot of these problems, and a lot of the work between storage vendors and VMware, et cetera, has gone on, and a lot of these things have been taking place. But as density of applications per server with the increases in performance capabilities in the processor and more memory, we continue to advance much more dense environments. And so the challenges for a traditional storage approach continue to increase as the density and intensity of the virtualized environments increases. Another area that we've seen a lot of work in is the concept of converged infrastructure. So Gartner might call this fabric-based infrastructure. People call this converged systems. It's the concept that, again, in the idea of consolidation, instead of having server teams and network teams and storage teams maybe not completely on the same page, how do we start to deliver those things as a system that includes my server, my network, my storage, in a way to manage that? So we've seen Cisco take a huge market lead in this area. So Cisco creates what they call, the data center architecture that really becomes the plumbing for this with their unified compute, unified management, and unified networking. And they've got partnerships, legacy partnerships with EMC and NetApp and HDS and others. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is how Pure Storage is adopting that infrastructure to create a converged infrastructure FlashStack based on that. These solutions are tested, they're validated, they're designed to work together, and there's support mechanisms to make, significant reduction in risk and higher SLAs for the organizations adopting those. And we've seen a huge level of adoption. We've seen that in the past, and we're actually starting to see that even accelerate moving forward. Whether it's Gartner or IDC or Wikibon or others who's looking at this market saying, what's happening in this converged infrastructure area, and we see tremendous amount of growth. And there aren't that many areas in IT that are seeing rapid growth, but this is one area that's seeing well into the double digits growth. We saw Cisco's numbers reported recently. We've seen the recent reports from all the analysts. Datalink reports this as a big growth driver for us, that the adoption of these converged infrastructures, if you will, is rapidly increasing based on the benefits it provides the organizations that are adopting those. So why do people do this? They want to reduce the cost of delivering IT internally. how do I use these as a foundation to advance virtualization further into the organization, driving standardization? How do I reduce the time to market so that I'm not trying to figure out, do these parts fit together, and how much testing do I have to do, and how much integration and design work do I have to do before I move to focusing on applications? That ends up accelerating the application delivery times, and agility is certainly something we want to drive into the organization, but it also takes out risk. I'm not as much risk if I know who to call and I know these things are designed to work together, then I am reducing risk, increasing service levels, and reducing time to market across the organization. And finally, it really builds this foundation to get into these cloud delivery models or IT as a service delivery models. Once I have a solid foundation, I can start to look further at the strategic things or what are my application delivery mechanisms, et cetera. So another huge area that we've seen is the arrival of the adoption, broad adoption. So flash storage has been around, but the broad adoption has taken place most recently because of great strides in building enterprise solutions, which was a requirement to run our most mission-critical applications, and the identification of the workloads that can benefit from this, and then some of the cost reduction. So there are a set of applications that value I/O over capacity. So, what's the value per IOP that I'm trying to measure versus, how many terabytes or petabytes can I store as the lowest cost possible? And we kind of know, at this point, what those applications are. They're, mission-critical, high-performance database applications. But in the area of virtualization, they are end-user compute, or VDI. Those, we talked about having a lot of I/O on a single platform, and as we tried to scale out traditional storage to get enough performance, we ended up breaking the cost model. And so, I think by now it's well understood that when you take flash and give you the I/O you required to solve that problem, you then make prototypes turn into production at an effective cost. And then that translates into high-density virtualization as well. So whether it's virtual desktops or just a lot of different server applications and high-density virtualization. And kind of one of the keys there is that while the cost of media for all flash storage is still significantly higher than that of spinning disk, when you use a virtualized environment, one of the rules of thumb is if you're integrated to that environment and understand how to work with that environment, and those APIs exist today, and you have this concept of deduplication, and we know that in most virtualized environments we get a tremendous benefit of deduplication. It's a multiplying effect of the performance. In other words, if I have 5-to-1 deduplication, then I can reduce the cost per capacity by 5, and that evens the playing field between traditional storage and all flash, but gives you that performance. And lastly, Datalink has been talking for the last few months about, focusing on the IT as a service and or cloud delivery models. And we've been talking and announcing and positioning things called Cloud Complete. And all of the things we're talking about fits directly in there. So Cloud Complete is this concept that, we need to get to cloud delivery models. We need to get to service delivery, automated delivery, or even self-service and or cloud placement. How do we do that? We've put together a set of solutions that includes a converged infrastructure, and we've already delivered this to the market in the form of FlashStack within Cloud Complete. And then in the management and orchestration, do we use the vRealize suite from VMware or other solutions that we could do and deliver orchestration? And then what Datalink has been doing is essentially packaging that in a box, if you would, and including one-call services and or monitoring, et cetera, and even the advanced services to come in and configure the services, et cetera. So that's, the broad wrapper of which we can wrap the solutions or deliver the solutions that we're going to talk about today. So that leads us to the focus of today's discussion, FlashStack. And the team with me is going to give you a much deeper understanding of the end-user compute environments and the specifics of FlashStack. But at the highest level, we're taking the Cisco infrastructure and marrying it with the Pure Storage all-flash array, leveraging a Pure Storage validated design. Datalink does the integration of the Pure Storage and the Cisco components and the VMware components and delivers those to the market. We do one call, we do monitoring, we do management, et cetera, and this becomes a unique 100% all-flash converged infrastructure market for the use cases we outlined earlier, specifically around end-user compute virtualization and high-density virtualization. And then why Datalink, and why are we so excited about this, and why have we invested so much in this? This is something we've been doing, so we're really excited with this solution. The industry, whether it's being Cisco, having us being one of the first, what they call premium partner, where they identified our ability to deliver this, we ended up at the top from pretty much everybody's viewpoint of delivering converged infrastructures to the market. Cisco Data Center Partner of the Year. We are a very strategic partner with VMware, and as they partition out who are our national solution partners, those who get the software-defined data center, we're in that somewhat exclusive organization, and again get a lot of back and forth collaboration with VMware on not just the products today and where they're going. And then we were thrilled when Pure Storage reached out to us, said we're going to do this. We're going to create the FlashStack support partner organization, and Datalink was the first, and I believe today the only one that can be a FlashStack authorized partner in the market. So we're very excited about this, and very excited about the opportunity. We've been doing this since even before it was launched last fall, and look forward to working with many, many more organizations on delivering this. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Shashim from VMware, and he's going to start giving us an overview of VMware's perspective on end-user compute.
Thanks so much, Kent. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sachin Sharma. I'm a part of the end-user computing product marketing team. Very delighted to be on this webcast with you and presenting with colleagues from Datalink and Pure Storage. What I wanted to do was just spend a few minutes giving you a little bit of an overview of where we sit as far as end-user computing is concerned within VMware. I think everybody has a good handle of VMware being a virtualization company and being the leader in server virtualization. But what we're trying to do is kind of show you a little bit of a more of an act two within our end-user computing business as well. I think everybody also is probably very, very familiar with desktop virtualization as it pertains to VMware, but I wanted to take it a notch above and really give you that overall high-level view of what VMware is envisioning as far as end-user computing is concerned. And our vision is pretty simple. We're starting to shift into a very mobile cloud era. Everything is centered around mobile devices and as far as end users are concerned, and in the back end, it's really all about IT being able to provision very easy to manage clouds, whether they're private clouds, hybrid clouds, or public clouds. And from an end user computing standpoint, our mission is pretty simple. We want IT to be able to deliver a secure virtual workspace for work at the speed of life. And this means IT has the ability to easily manage applications, desktops, mobile phones, any sort of device across the board, and be able to deliver all of these apps across these different platforms that you see, such as desktops, laptops, tablets, mobile phones, and maybe even in the future take that out into consumer goods area with cars, for example. And the way that we're doing this is by giving IT a platform to deliver virtualized or published desktops and applications. The platform, of course, is going to sit on vSphere, the best virtualization platform out there, the most secure platform out there. And on top of that, we have a variety of different solutions available to help deliver these applications and desktops. For example, we have RDSH apps that we introduced as part of Horizon 6 last year that we launched. So very equivalent to just publishing applications. Instead of delivering a complete desktop, you can just deliver an application that's actually being hosted on a central server that IT is managing. The benefits of that is easy, streamlined management. It's easy to update applications. Your licensing costs go down. So it's really a big win if you're just trying to deliver just that single application or just a few applications across all types of locations, even across slow links. We've always been in the business of delivering virtual desktops. We've been in that business for several years, probably about 10 years, introducing VDI back in the mid-2000s. And above and beyond that, we've actually even got ways to deliver thin apps, which are just applications that you can isolate that can run on operating systems. And the benefit that you get of that is really the fact that isolating these applications allows you to run multiple versions of the same application on the same operating system, or you can run legacy applications on newer operating systems. For example, classic example is just running Internet Explorer 6 on Windows 7. That's something that you couldn't do natively. However, if you wanted to do it by virtualizing your application using thin apps, you could do that. So this is just a simple diagram of the platform that we're able to deliver. And I wanted to bring this up because it really shows you that we're beyond just virtual desktops now. We have published applications that you can host on converged infrastructure that Mayur will talk about a little bit later on the pure storage side. And of course, you can run services through all of that with Datalink as well. We have a portal that's available so that you can access all of these applications and desktops that IT delivers. It makes it very easy for IT to for the end user to jump out onto their tablet, their mobile phone, their laptop, their desktop, any device that they're using to access their application. And apps on here aren't just hosted by VMware. These could be apps that IT has that are SaaS-based, like, for example, Google Apps or Office 365. That can actually be hosted inside of this workspace portal as a front end. You can also have RDS-H apps in here. As I mentioned, that's something that's new in Horizon 6. You can also host Citrix Zen apps as a front end within this portal as well. And, of course, you can access your virtual desktops. So it's really, we're trying to provide that easy access, that one-stop shop, so that your users can log in, have the same experience to all their apps and desktops from any device and from any location. And we're going to continue to enhance this as we move forward. We've definitely come a long way from enhancing end-user experience. I think early on in the VDI days, it left a bad taste in a lot of customers' mouths because of the complexities involved in setting up storage, for example, on the back end. Maybe you didn't have enough IOPS or storage capacity. Maybe the persistent architecture wasn't really helping IT out a whole lot in the early days of VDI. Well, we've come a long way, and on top of using converged infrastructure like Pure Storage, we're able to mitigate a lot of those deficiencies that we saw early on. And on top of that, VMware in itself has done great things to enhance the user experience. We call this blast performance. With blast performance across desktops and applications, you're actually able to access a lot of the apps that you may not have thought about accessing through virtual desktops. Like, for example, you can access 3D applications, 3D or even applications that sit inside of desktops that are virtualized. We have a great partnership with NVIDIA, and we've actually announced a lot over the past few years in terms of being able to access 3D apps through VSGA, through VDGA, as well as the newly announced, as of this year, the vGPU grid. So a lot of enhancements around 3D. If you have an environment that does require 3D development, I think you definitely want to take a look at VDI overall all over again using VMware Horizon. Beyond that, we have ways that you can optimize viewing multimedia, for example, videos inside of virtual desktops. That's probably not the most optimal way to view videos, but because of our enhancements inside of our BLAST protocol, you're actually able to have a much better user experience with that now. We have this feature called Unity Touch, which allows you to use a tablet or a mobile phone and make it very easy for you to access your virtual desktops and applications inside of those specific form factors. accessing a virtual desktop inside of your mobile phone or your tablet is going to be very hard. The interface isn't very optimal. So what we've done is made it very easy by giving you easy controls to click on, so that if you're trying to open up a folder, for example, you can just swipe left and you'll get a list of the folders that are available inside of your virtual desktop. So that's just one example of how we're making things easy. And beyond that, we have ways that we've worked with other third-party vendors for peripherals, for example, USB access or Skype or any sort of multimedia peripheral live communications access is actually made a lot easier with you. And you can access your desktops and applications eventually, but for now, desktop through an HTML browser. That's a very cool feature that you can allow your end users to log into their desktops without even having a client loaded onto their laptop or device that they're accessing their desktop or application from. So a lot of great enhancements across the user experience arena. So now that I've explained a little bit about what VMware has been up to in the end user computing space, I wanted to just set up the Pure Storage section about this and really talk a little bit about what the typical data center infrastructure deployment cycle usually consists of. So we've scaled this down into 10 parts. You could probably bundle a couple of these together to make it even easier to view. But essentially, when you're thinking about pushing out a VDI environment or a published app environment, you really got to go through 10 of these different options right away when you're thinking about hosting something inside of your own data center. You have to think about design and architecture. How are you going to architect your virtual desktops? If you have 1,000 users, is it going to be a persistent architecture? Is it going to be non-persistent architecture? That design is very important in setting up the architecture so that you're successful with your VDI rollout. Sizing is always a big issue. A lot of customers say, okay, I have 10 users. They each require 10 gigabytes of disk space, so that means I need 100 gigs. It might not be as easy as that, because sometimes you might need more space for, like execs, for example. They might want more space. So sizing is a very key component of setting up an ideal VDI environment. Then you got to go through, once you've set up your sizing and you got all the buy-ins for that, you got to go through the normal procurement process. How are you going to integrate and make sure that your apps are compatible with each other and that all the lines of businesses are still able to talk to each other? You have to think about trialing most products. You want to go through a proof of concept usually just to see that make sure that it works inside of your environment. Once you tested and validated that portion of it, you go ahead and go through the purchase product, move it out to production. Then you continuously have to maintain your hardware infrastructure for your VDI environment. And of course, if your company is doing, let's say they're doing well and they're growing 10x, then you have to think about how am I going to grow my backend infrastructure as well. And then finally, thinking about how to upgrade your infrastructure. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years down the line, is this something that you need a refresh for? So, going through all of these, you can see there's a lot of pain points when you're thinking about how your infrastructure is actually going to be laid out over the course of several years in setting up virtual desktops, managing virtual desktops, managing virtual applications. And our partnerships with the great partners like Pure Storage and Datalink actually make this a lot easier. And I'll go ahead and tee it up for my ear here to take it away and talk a little bit more about the converged infrastructure play with Pure Storage.
All right, thanks, Sachin, and hello, everyone. I'm part of the product management team here at Pure Storage. My name is Mayur Diwakar, and I am leading the FlashStack initiative at Pure Storage. So I wanted to talk to you guys about what exactly is FlashStack, how Pure Storage is adding value in the converged infrastructure offering, and how it can help you address a lot of the issues that Sachin brought up that IT users often run into when trying to deploy either virtual desktops or straight up virtualization or even deploying physical workloads within a converged infrastructure solution. So converged infrastructure has been gaining a lot of popularity in the last couple of years, and it really addresses some of the pain points that Sachin brought up, right? So it really removes the IT user out of the cycle that Sachin mentioned, which is every time there's a new project coming up, you have to go through, everything from designing to procuring to POCs to implementation and refresh. I mean, that's a very slow and painful process. And what converged infrastructure offerings have done over time is they have really simplified that entire process of implementing IT infrastructure in your environment. So the biggest benefit you get by implementing converged infrastructure is time to value. So converged infrastructure has been built on traditional storage for the longest time, right? So you look at a lot of the offerings that have been out in the market, the VCEs, the FlexPods that NetApp is selling, a lot of those are based on spinning disk. Now, when you have spinning disk in a data center, there are some significant problems that come into play because of spinning disk, right? So performance being one of them, complexity, manageability, the cost of deploying these architectures, and latency, right? So latency, again, part of the performance equation. When you factor all of this in, there is still a lot of complexity with deploying converged infrastructure, especially when you're dealing with solutions that are based on traditional storage, which is spinning disk. So Flash really is gaining ground in the data center, and Flash is very quickly becoming the new standard also for desktop virtualization. So with that, I want to introduce to you the offering that we are talking about here, and that offering is being called FlashStack. So FlashStack is essentially a converged infrastructure offering made with 100% flash storage offered by Pure Storage, and it is also built with other industry standard and also industry leading components such as Cisco and VMware. Now, the benefit you get by implementing a converged infrastructure that's running 100% flash, such as Pure Storage, is that your cost of storage essentially is in the same range as traditional disk. Now, that is huge, right? Because if you can implement Flash and get the performance and low latency of Flash at the cost of spinning disk, why would you implement traditional storage in the first place, right? So that is really factor number one. The second factor when it comes to really implementing a converged infrastructure is that you probably care about the performance, the density, and also the resiliency that converged infrastructure is willing to offer. And one of the biggest elements in that entire infrastructure is storage, right? Storage is the most critical piece in a lot of cases because storage is where you're putting the data, right? And you want to make sure that data is being protected on a consistent basis, and that data is available to you when you need it, right? So that's really the second point. And the third point when you're trying to implement a converged infrastructure is that you have a partner that is supporting you with the deployment and with any technical issues that come up. Now, the big thing that you'll see, a big trend in the market is there are a lot of reference architectures, and the reference architectures don't nearly give you the same level of support. You're essentially given a couple of different components that have been tested together, that work well together, and that is very often also being referred to as converged infrastructure. Well, that's really not converged infrastructure, right? That is what we typically call a reference architecture. What makes a converged infrastructure really valuable is the support piece. If you have to call 3 different vendors for getting support on your IT infrastructure, that just increases the complexity for your IT admin. And we are looking to resolve that with the FlashStack offering. So FlashStack is being supported by our authorized support partners, and Datalink is being one of them. And essentially, when you sign up to implement a FlashStack offering, our support in North America for all the components within the FlashStack offering is being done by Datalink. So you always have to call one support line, and that one support line is the Datalink support line. So Datalink will act as the single point of contact for any support-related issues that come up with the FlashStack converged infrastructure offering. Now, if you look at the different components we have built this offering with, we chose to go with industry-leading components. So we have VMware in the mix. We also have Cisco, because we use Cisco servers and Cisco switches. And then we have Pure Storage, which is the leading independent all-flash, the only leading independent all-flash vendor to be featured in the Leaders Quadrant, the Magic Quadrant that Gartner releases every year. So you'll see that everything in here is, it's best in class. And Pure Storage, just a little bit more background. I mean, we've been in business for 4 years. We are pretty much neck to neck with EMC in the Magic Quadrant. We have also done extremely well in a lot of other industry reports. And to give you an example here, this report calls out the Gartner critical capabilities for SSDs, right? And in that report, Pure Storage was number one in server and desktop virtualization. So, we take pride in the product that we have built here. This is, Pure Storage as a company has done extremely well, and we are just getting started as a company here. Now, storage really matters in converged infrastructure, and I mentioned to you, storage is where you're keeping the data, and very often you'll find that there are challenges with managing support within converged infrastructure, right? So typically the challenges involve upgrades, high availability, the performance impact when you are running an HA configuration, and if something goes down. Also, data reduction capabilities are very important when you're trying to implement Flash, right? So also protecting that data, being able to provide resiliency is also very important. So when we were building Pure Storage, our products, and as a company, our biggest philosophy was that we want to provide a product that anytime you want to do any kind of upgrades, your upgrade should always be non-disruptive. So anytime you design a new offering or a new product at Pure, that's our fundamental principle. So any changes you have to make in the rack, whether you're adding capacity, whether you are doing software upgrades, any operations are completely non-disruptive. We are the only all-flash vendor in the market today which will provide you completely non-disruptive upgrades at any given point in time. Our HA, everything within the storage and actually in the rack is highly available, right? In the FlashStack rack. Specific to Pure, we have redundant controllers. We have power supplies and fans. Everything is basically redundant in the environment, and there is actually no loss of performance if any of those components in the storage goes down. So HA without performance loss is pretty big for us. We have implemented best-in-class data reduction. So our data reduction consists of a couple of different steps. So right from pattern removal to actual inline data deduplication, compression, and then on top of that, we also do deep cleansing of that data on the back end, right? So if you really look at all the different data reduction processes that the data goes through, that is essentially our secret sauce for allowing us to allowing us to offer flash at the cost of spinning disk. So data reduction is very, very critical when you're implementing an all-flash solution, right? Also, protecting the data is very important, right? So you have data, your mission-critical data in most cases, sitting on your flash array, and if something were to happen, you want to make sure that that data is recoverable. So we have built-in snapshotting capabilities. We can replicate data to remote locations for data protection, and all of that is built in and is basically provided at no additional cost to the end user. So let's talk a little bit about the management. So this question always comes up. So hey, so how do you manage this deployment of FlashStack, right? So all the components that we have in FlashStack are essentially plugging into the vCenter GUI, and so every single individual component actually has a plugin that goes into the vCenter GUI, and so the vCenter GUI that VMware has that everyone is familiar with is essentially the single pane of glass for management. There are certain operations that will have to be carried out from the UCS manager, for example, like creating service profiles and such things like that, but that's a one-time operation, and that is being done up front. But your day-to-day management of your infrastructure essentially gets done from within vCenter. Now, the value that you get when implementing converged infrastructure solution is huge, right? So, and this is comparing it with a traditional non-converged process, right? So when you do your initial deployment, you have to go through a certain number of steps to get that FlashStack converged infrastructure offering going. Now, as you add more capacity, as things come up for refresh, you'll notice that the process gets defined and gets baked and almost templatized to such an extent that the amount of time needed to grow the environment or to refresh the environment is very, very minuscule, right? So that's where the real value comes in is, over time, how much time and investment are you putting into managing the solution? And you'll see that, over time, the OpEx cost drops pretty dramatically with a converged infrastructure solution. So in our first round of offerings that came out in December of 2014, we released two different architectures or two different offerings. The first one was for VMware vSphere, and the second one was for the VMware Horizon View. So virtual desktops and server virtualization are the two offerings. So we certified on vSphere 5.5 and on VMware Horizon View 6.0. And the overall philosophy was that we want to work with real world workloads, and so when we did our testing, we took real world examples of how people are deploying their virtualized servers or their virtualized desktop environments, and we tried to emulate our reference architecture based on that. If you look up our reference architecture guides that we have posted on purestorage.com, you'll see how we start small with small workloads, and then we can grow very granularly to higher capacity. So whether it's higher number of virtual machines or whether it's higher number of virtual desktops, you'll see that those things, these architectures scale pretty nicely over time as you add more capacity and as you add more users in the mix. So with specific to the VMware Horizon 6.0 certification that we have done, it was designed for real world knowledge workers. We started with 100 to 500 desktops, and then we scaled it up to nearly 3,000 desktops within one rack. And what we saw as we did the testing was that the performance was just mind-blowing, right? So Flash in itself gives you some pretty pretty significant performance gains. And when you pair that with the pure storage, Purity operating system that we run on our flash arrays and all the goodness that we do to it in terms of how we manage the data, how we reduce the data, you find that the performance is very high. The deduplication rates are very high, which means you can pack a lot more data in a given solution, and that effectively reduces your total cost of ownership over time. Now, in terms of deploying, in terms of the VDI deployments itself, you find that as you roll things out, the deployment is pretty seamless, and the end user experience is also flawless, because essentially you don't have the issues with virtual desktops that you typically run into when you're running these infrastructures on spinning disk. So essentially what happens, as I mentioned in the reference architectures, is you start small, and we almost have a small, medium, large config if you look at our reference architecture documents. And basically the small configurations involve anywhere between 100 to 500 desktops, and we can customize these in terms of performance and also in terms of storage capacity by putting in a pure array that actually matches those storage and performance requirements. So our entry-level array, which is the 405, it is great for small and medium-sized deployments. And if you want larger deployments, then we also have a 420 and a 450 series of flash arrays, which basically give you more capacity and also give you more performance. And all of this can be sized and designed by Datalink. So Datalink is our channel partner that designs these solutions and also does support on these solutions. So Datalink is very well versed with all the challenges that people typically run into, and they can provide guidance on how to size and deploy these virtualized desktop environments on FlashStack. So in terms of benefits, again, best end user experience. Flash becomes affordable when you have good dedupe processing on top of the data, and that's essentially what we do with Pure Storage Flash. We provide scale and reliability. You can start small. You can add more capacity as you grow. Everything is highly available, non-disruptive upgrades, and all the administration essentially becomes extremely simple because most of it is being done within VMware vCenter. So one of the secret sauces, if you will, or differentiator for us is our ability to provide the one call support through partners such as Datalink. And the benefit you really get from that is you're always calling one single vendor for any support-related issues that come up, right? Datalink is chosen to be part of this program given their expertise in selling and supporting all three components in FlashStack. So Cisco, VMware, and Pure. Datalink has the highest level of certification and partner status with all of these vendors, and they have engineers and they have support technicians that know this entire stack extremely well. So when you buy from a partner like Datalink, you're essentially getting that one throat to choke, and you also get a partner that knows your environment really well, right? So as you architect your environment, and if you have a need to add more capacity or make changes in the environment, you can call Datalink. Datalink already knows the environment, and the benefit from that is that you're getting faster results in your IT projects, and anytime something were to go wrong, you have you have a line into a partner that really knows your environment really well. So this is a true differentiator for us, and we handpick these partners. You'll notice that we only have 3 partners globally that are supporting FlashStack today. And the reason for that is that our standard for support is extremely high here at Pure. And we believe that Datalink, with all the expertise they have, can provide you that high quality support when it comes to FlashStack. So our channel, this is a channel play for Pure, and channel is very excited about FlashStack. And one of the reasons for that is because this is a pretty big opportunity for our partners to really provide a larger solution to the customers, right? So not just storage, but also server and networking and virtualized environments, right? So if you look at the entire environment, it's a pretty big footprint for our partners, and so it increases their reach into our install base, and it really provides Datalink or partners like Datalink an opportunity to provide an end-to-end solution to the customer, right? And so that means not just buying the equipment and the software, but also doing implementation services and providing technical support. And so that's a money-making opportunity for our partners, and also an opportunity for partners to provide the strategic partnership that a lot of customers are looking for when it comes to their IT projects. So just to really kind of sum it up, FlashStack converged infrastructure, based on 100% flash, which essentially gives you, best-in-class performance with extremely low latency, and it's very simple to deploy. It uses less power, less cooling, and less space. And so the value there is that you can essentially, really condensing things down if you're comparing with spinning disk, and really get a lot more value, same level of performance or actually better performance than what you may have in several racks today. You get that with a single rack of flash, basically, when you deploy flash in the environment. Also, enterprise being 100% enterprise grade means you need HA, resiliency, non-disruptive operations, and all of that you essentially get with a Pure Storage based FlashStack infrastructure. Also, lower risk when you have a repeatable process to deploy your IT infrastructure that reduces risk and really accelerates time to value. And that is really a key element in the FlashStack converged infrastructure. In fact, for any converged infrastructure, time to value is of utmost importance. And lastly, I think the fact that the solution is tested by us and built for you by our partners and supported by our partners, you find that there is a lot of value in an offering like that, because essentially you have a trusted partner you can go to for all of your IT needs, right from deployment to support. So that really kind of sums up the presentation today, and I want to thank you for your time. We do have a few minutes left, so maybe we can take some questions on the line.
All right, so if you have any questions, go ahead and type those in the Q&A, and we'll address them in the time that we have left. There's one question in the queue. What is the average cost? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking at that question, and I was responding to that.
Okay.
I will need to get you this answer as such, because we will need to work with Datalink on this. I don't have all the pricing for the server and also the VMware piece. So why don't we take an action to get back to you on this question?
Great. So the Q&A is open, and while we wait, give people a chance. Hashim, I have a quick question for you. From your perspective at VMware, how has flash storage help advance the overall adoption of end-user compute? there?
Sachin, are you on
Sachin,
mute?
are you still?
So Mayur, I'll toss one out at you. Can you talk about the difference or maybe the trade-off between an all-flash solution and a some flash where others are using either cache or hybrid environments? From your experience, talk about some of the trade-offs.
Yep, absolutely. So if you really kind of look at how the storage industry has evolved over the last couple of years, flash was extremely expensive when it first initially came out, right? And there was no way people were deploying flash more broadly in their data centers. So what they did was they went to a hybrid model, right? So what that essentially means is you have a little bit of a flash available for, for your most performance-intensive workloads, and that flash essentially was basically a caching area, right? So all your reads were pretty fast, and the writes were pretty fast, and the reads were fast as long as that data sat within that cache. The problem people were running into was that there was a lot of manual tiering that had to be done. Also, the other problem that people were running into was that what happens when you run out of capacity on that caching tier, right? So those are very real-world problems, and essentially what happens when you run out of that cache is that you're back to spinning disk, right? So we took a different approach, right? Our goal at Pure was to really kind of solve for that problem, and our belief was that if we can make flash affordable and make it affordable at the cost of spinning disk, then why would anyone want to deploy spinning disk, right? So our goal is really to address a lot of those tier one workloads where people are running into all sorts of performance issues and really take those on. And over time, our belief is that flash is also going to be adopted down market in tier two workloads, right? So we don't believe that a hybrid architecture is going to stay around for too long. And so our bet is behind, an all-flash infrastructure. And we believe that by 2017, and that's our initial estimate, we believe that by 2017 that most of the tier one workloads will be on flash. And we believe that also tier two, a good portion of tier two workloads will also start migrating to flash, mainly because the cost of flash is going to drop pretty dramatically over time.
Hey, Ken, this is Sachin. Sorry about that earlier. I was speaking on mute. Can you repeat the question? I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, it's been the year of the desktop for quite some time, but it really seems to be accelerating. And I was wondering if you could kind of touch, from your perspective at VMware, how much has the improvements of flash in the storage environment helped accelerate the adoption of end-user compute?
It's definitely helped out a lot. I think as far as I've been at VMware for the past 3 years, I've always heard that term, it's a year of the desktop this year, and it's a year of the desktop the next year, and so on. But I think the converged infrastructure play, it's very, very hot in the market right now, and I think the reason why is because it's helping out desktop virtualization so much. And I think at VMware, at least last year, we realized that if you don't want the entire desktop delivered to you, you do have options of just having an application or two delivered to you via RDSH as well. So you have options on which way to go. I don't know if there's ever truly going to be the right year of the desktop until we can see it in hindsight. But all flash arrays such as Pure Storage are definitely helping the cause.
Great. Well, I do not see any additional questions in the chat line. We're going to answer the question that Sach, it becomes a little bit complicated depending on how many services you have around it and things like that, but it's certainly under $1,000 all in with kind of the white glove valet service. And then if you're looking for lowest cost per desktop, there's a couple of variables that go into that, but we'll try to get back to you on that. I do want to, highlight and reiterate the point that Mayor made about how extremely excited we are to be delivering FlashStack. It is a great solution for us to be architecting, delivering, supporting, and not just, the FlashStack as is, but building it into our overall cloud complete strategy. So we're extremely excited about that. We definitely appreciate all those that took out time in their busy day to participate in the webcast. Thank you, Shishim and Mayor, for your participation in this. And with that, I think we will log off, and thank you again.
Thanks.